both, but I think it will be faster. So can I share my screen so that you can see the video too?
Yes, on the bottom.
The presentation is in video.
Perfect.
Okay. So let's wait.
Today, Tahsin will be going over the work he's done with the ag simulation. There's a share screen button on the bottom of the window where you can...
In share, I think, yeah, okay. I have found it, and okay, when it will be ready, I will open. So actually I can introduce myself, and in the video I can directly dive into the details of the project. So for all of you, let me start with myself. Everybody ready? Is everyone ready?
We're ready.
Ready? So Mahmoud,
how are you?
You?
Oh, yes.
How are you?
I'm fine.
I think you are from Egypt, right?
Yes.
So you are using ROS too, as I understand.
Build an autonomous crop sprayer.
Okay, okay, I get.
And you?
I'm from Turkey. Actually, I'm not currently enrolled in any actually official group. I'm working in a company, but recently I was in Kovan Research Lab in Ankara. Probably you don't know them, but a frontier robotics lab in Turkey. So yeah, it's like that. I'm making my master studies nowadays, and will decide to do my master thesis on which subject.
That's great.
Okay, let me start with the introduction of myself. As you have heard, I'm making my master in Middle East Technical University located in Turkey, Ankara. So the name of the project is Hector Move It. As you know, actually for an agricultural project, it is a little bit unintuitive, because in the first place, actually it was a irrelated project. I was aiming to integrate Hector quadrotor stack with Move It motion planning framework, because I was using both of them and I thought that these can be integrated. So with this thought, I started to make a research and find out the amazing work of Will Selby's ROS quadrotor simulator. If you know, but I will show it in my video, so don't worry. In that study, he actually, I think, integrated 4 or 5 drones in Move It framework. Actually, Move It framework is used in manipulators. So integrating it in drones is a really actually crucial and important non-trivial task. So following his tutorials and his works, I have managed to integrate the Hector quadrotor stack with Move It at the end of 1 month. And then I started to think that there should be a challenging use case that I can use this integrated framework to prove actually its abilities. So then it was in the summer, and I was in my family's house, and there was a big garden, and in garden there are actually 15 or 20 trees, and at least 5 or 6 of them are reaching to heights like 6 meters. So we had to pick and collect fruits every day from those heights. So it became a little bit cumbersome for me, actually for me and for my brother. So I thought that actually if we have a drone in our case, and if there's a manipulator attached to its base, and even with collecting one by one, it would be enough for us. So with that thought, actually, I started to build a simulation in Gazebo, ROS, with these frameworks, and then the project evolved to its status quo. So let me share my screen with you, and I will actually show the video that I have taken yesterday, so things can go faster. So I will share my screen with you. You will hear my voice again. And yes, I'm sharing it. Can you see?
Yes.
Okay, everybody sees? Okay.
Yes.
And I'm actually starting it.
Is there audio that's also playing?
Sorry?
Is there audio that's also playing, or this is, you'll talk through this?
No, I recorded this audio too. So I'm not talking now, but I have talked yesterday.
Okay, because I can't hear the audio, but I'm not sure if anybody else can hear with the video.
Okay. I actually, the video should also show the video. Oh, sorry, audio, but if you want, I can make a live presentation now. It's okay too. Do you hear me?
I can hear you
Yes.
talking, but I can't hear the
The audio of
on
the video
the
is not.
Okay, you only see the frames in the video, but not the audio.
Yes.
Is it related with the share utility of the Zoom? Because I have recorded also the audio in the video. Maybe.
There's audio settings next to the mic.
Okay, I have seen that. Leave computer audio, is it correct? Whatever, I will make it leave, okay. Sorry for that. Okay, I will explain you in now while the actually video is in the screen.
Or maybe if you unplugged your headset when you
Okay.
played your video, then we could hear maybe through the
Okay,
speakers or something.
okay. So do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, now I will open the video then. Okay. So you can hear my voice in the video? Hello back everyone. Here is the with Selby's ROS Simulator repository, which is the initial point where my project started actually. There are a lot of information in this repository if you want to get involved, but let me briefly sketch some of the related points in here. These are some prerequisites, we don't need them. Let me briefly explain you what is model verification. If you have a real drone that isn't verified as a simulation model in anywhere on the web, you have to verify your own model, and it is a non-trivial task. I don't know the exact details of that, but it is being used for such a problem. And there is controller. Actually, this is manual controller, and it is not required in my case. I didn't use that. There is 2D mapping and navigation. If you have a mobile robot in some ground and its degree of freedom is constrained with 3, then you need some 2D mapping and navigation. But in our case, it is 3D mapping and navigation. And what I did was to actually follow these documents in here. It has many references to move it, actually. There is the perception configuration. You have to configure your package with these, for example, sensors, Kinect, YAML. These are the details, actually, and you don't need to know, but the end result is like that. And let me navigate to my own repository to show you some results. For example, in my repository, I have recorded several videos, and the resulting maps, actually they are called octomaps, and I will show you what is octomap. And let me show you what is in here. It is not too long actually, but yeah, it is. I started it. Sorry, the resolution is good. Can you see the video?
Yes.
From the YouTube? Okay. From the middle of the simulation. What it does, actually, let me explain you what it does. It is an exploration package. It starts from scratch without knowing anything about the environment. So, firstly, it tries to detect the frontier through Octomap, using Octomap interface. And with that, actually, there are a lot of frontiers it can sample from the field, and I apply some randomization on those frontiers to eliminate the problem of always closest or always farthest frontier navigation. So as you can see from the video too, there are a lot of different type of motions in this video. A lot of different type of frontiers. After frontiers are sampled, actually they are given into the motion planning pipeline, which is MoveIt's pipeline. It's a perfect pipeline. And after that, the drone traverses all the field through some heuristicized exploration algorithm. And as you can see, as drone moves, the octomap is being constructed, and it is a very good approximation of the environment, as you can see. So these project also can be used, this application also can be used in reality. So let me give some more detail about my own project, which is Hector MoveIt in our case. And I use Hector Gazebo, Hector Localization, Hector Quadrotor, and Hector Models packages as is. I didn't make any adjustment on those packages. And the packages which begin with Hector MoveIt prefixes are my own. So actually, let me start from the beginning. There is the Hector MoveIt Actions package, in which I build my own execute drone trajectory action. And then in the source, there is the trajectory executor, which is a node itself. And with that, the computed plans are being executed with that node exactly. And there is the Hector MoveIt config. Actually, this is the place where integration occurs with Hector Quadrotor and Hector MoveIt config. One can have the ready-made integrated Hector and MoveIt packages. So with using these, one can, for example, use RV's GUI of MoveIt with Hector Quadrotor and plan its own test goals, for example, from some specific start state to some specific goal state. And there is the Hector MoveIt exploration, which is actually the first phase of the project. It is finished, almost finished. I will move to the second phase, but of course there are some points that should be improved in this project as well. Let me open it. So there is actually two source files, but there is only one node running in here. Actually, it is very cumbersome to go in detail in this case, but what I am doing in here is to actually fetch the frontiers one by one and have a randomization routine run on them, and afterwards I pick randomly a frontier and try to move that. Actually, that is the main basic pipeline which the Hector MoveIt exploration package tries to do. So there are also other stuff related to Gazebo, where the launch files are located in. Actually, there is only one launch file right now, but in the future it will be more launch files. And there is the plugins, there is words, and there is the ROS plugins. So let me open you for this case real simulation of the project. So I will open it now. So let me pause the video for now, and I will restart it when I will be ready. So yes, everything is ready now, and let me start with the simulation, the main simulation launch file, which triggers several other launch files that will actually initiate the required modes, parameters, and other stuff related to this simulation actually. So it starts, for example, controllers, the Hector Move It stack with required parameters. For example, the config has many, the Hector Move It config package has many launch files, and it actually starts with this launch file. You can start all the necessary files. So let me move to the next launch file, which is the exploration launch file. It starts only the exploration node, so you can also use ROS run, but anyways, in the future I might need some more parameters and other stuff, so I stick with the usage of launch files. So when it starts, let me go to the gazebo, in which here you can see the drone. It will now start to ascend, and you can see the trees. I have built them through Blender with some simple script. Therefore, they are synced exactly the same from all sides. Not always the same, but anyways, they are not so good. But actually, for the initial task I have in my hand, they provide adequate resources. So in the future, let me go to the RVs. In the future, I will have so yes, sorry for the interruption.
Okay.
Yeah, it actually continues on. As you can see, in this orchard grid, in the left-hand side of the RVs GUI, there's the exploration rate. As the quadcopter traverses in the field, the exploration rate grows correspondingly, and there is the grid. In this grid, the cells with blue colors are meant to be not traversed again in the future. Also, exploration's logic respects to that constraint, and as you can see, the frontiers are just fetched through Octomap. Therefore, there is no need to know any priori information, a priori information from the map. So basically, these simulation can be used in any word file, with of course in any reasonable word. For example, if there are some, for example, impossible places to go with respect to actually that is mostly in the case of 2D, but it can be in 3D as well. So yeah, as you can see, it constructs the Octomap as it traverses, and the exploration rate grows. Yeah, so I wanted to see how the project enhances regarding to the exploration rate, and therefore I created an own metric in this case. So as you see, sorry for the interruption, as you see in the previous planning step, it had seen that there was a collision even on the next waypoints it would traverse. So it stopped and made a new plan to a new frontier. So you cannot know that the former frontier is in an obstacle or not. So it is also robust to invalid frontiers regarding to the collisions. So also it is important to always front face the motion direction, so you should not collide into some obstacle. Therefore, you have to always face. Also, you have to always front face. You have to always have a front-facing camera. Yeah, as you can see, it goes like this. I'm using the actually. So yeah, it showed detect the problem in there and ascended and going. Yeah, as you can see, and it will go like that. So actually, let me cut out the simulation. We don't need to see all the simulation until the end. So yeah, hinting. This is the main, not main, this is the static core of the simulation, and that's all. If you have questions, and actually it is important to you to have questions so that I can explain the things in greater detail. So thank you for this presentation. So yeah, let me stop sharing. You can see me, right? Okay, do you have questions? Actually, my language yesterday was not good as today. So sorry for those interferences, interruptions in the presentation. The video increases in terms of length because of that. But now you can ask me questions so that I can answer them in much greater detail. Or if you want a real new simulation, I can show you a simulation in runtime too.
I have two questions.
Okay.
The first one, you have talked in the beginning about a manipulator on the drone, but
Sorry?
it wasn't. You have talked about a manipulator on the drone.
With a drone? Manipulator with a drone? Yeah, okay. Actually, it is the third phase of my project, so it is not implemented yet, and I don't know whether there is some example of that in the internet too, or in other places. So actually, my second phase will consist of the detection of fruits and trees. So it will require some image processing or machine learning. I will dive into machine learning. And in the third phase, I will try to attach a manipulator to its base. So I have said that at the end of the project, there will be a manipulator, but of course, it is not built yet. It is not implemented in even simulation.
I think it's too difficult.
Yeah, it is very difficult. Actually, in our last year, it was our undergraduate, actually senior year, and there was a group that tried to build actually a manipulator to the bottom of a drone, but of course they failed. But I knew they tried, but yeah. There are actually industrial instances of such a drone too, because you can attach arm to drone. I have seen a couple of examples, but of course it's very difficult.
I haven't
Dynamics.
seen anything like this before.
Yeah, okay. I will post you some instances of that. I have seen some advertisements on web. I don't know whether they are real, but yeah, they behave.
Okay, the second question, how do you start building this simulation?
Did I start building this simulation, right?
Yes.
Okay, I was using Gazebo for actually 18 months. So I know Gazebo very well. I have written plugins for both Gazebo and Arvis until now. So for simulation, actually, it was the easiest part for me. So I thought that there should be a good environment that I can actually test my application. So I started to search for some realistic 3D models in web, but actually most of them are not free. Not actually, you have to pay to have a really good 3D model, and of course it comes with a burden too. If you have a really realistic 3D model with fluids, then the computation resource actually required resources will grow in your computation time. So I searched for an alternative way to do that. So there is Blender. If you know, actually all the models, Blender, it's a actually modeling suite, and all the models in Gazebo, not all, but most of them, most of the models in Gazebo are built in there. And there's also some Python connection with Blender, so you can write scripts in Blender. So that's how I built my trees in Blender. Otherwise, it is actually an art to build some model. It is very difficult, but with scripts you can build your own models. Actually, that's how I have started my simulation.
Okay. What difficulties do you face during this project?
Sorry?
What difficulties you have faced during developing this simulation?
Actually, there are a couple of difficulties. There were a couple of difficulties. For example, Moveit actually developed by Picnic, as you would know, and it's actually they're focusing in industrial manipulators. So Moveit focuses on manipulators. So actually, in the first sight, it is very unintuitive to use such a motion planning framework for drones, quadcopters. And there is a lack of a place for drones to have an autonomous motion planning framework. Actually, I knew that there is a gap in that side, but those times I have made a really good research, but I couldn't find a actually framework such as Moveit, and thought that there should be an integration of these framework with the drones. Therefore, it was not intuitive. It required a lot of things to solve in parameters, in config files. In the beginning, it was very difficult, but as I said, the ROS carburetor simulator of Selby explains a lot of the details. So using that, actually, you can integrate your own quadrotor too.
Okay. Advise me to build a simulation for the crop sprayer I am trying to build.
Sorry?
Advise me to build a simulation to the crop sprayer I am working on.
Okay.
Give me a small brief. How can I go in deep in this?
Going deep with this, with my own project or your own? Your own.
My own.
My own project. You want to contribute to my project, as I understand? Or
I want to build a simulation to the crop sprayer I am working on.
Okay. Actually, building a simulator is a very difficult task if you are pursuing such a thing. But you can use. Do you want to build a simulator?
Yes.
From scratch.
On Gazebo.
On Desi? Sorry, I can't get you. On Gazebo.
Yes.
So what is your application?
Crop spraying using a ground vehicle, autonomous ground vehicle.
Ground vehicle. Actually, there are a lot of resources in both web. Actually, there is the Construct Sim, if you know. They have many tutorials on such things, but also actually you have to actually pay some amount of fee for their courses to attend all of their contents. But also there are a lot of other free resources on the web. So you can start with, for example, a Husky robot. Actually, there are tutorials with Husky robot. It's a differential robot, actually differential wheeled robot. So you can use that, for example, for a base as a ground vehicle.
Okay. For testing the code or packages written for the real hardware,
Yeah.
is it difficult to do this in simulation?
Actually, if you want to test your application in hardware, it is actually very different than doing it in simulation. So you actually now you have your own real vehicle, and the simulation world is much more clean, much cleaner with respect to real world. Therefore, if you really achieve a good performance in simulation, it is a little bit difficult to achieve such a performance in real world. So actually testing your application in real world requires a little bit more effort in that case. But of course, you can build the same scenario in there too. I don't have many experience on real robots. I have used a UR5 manipulator for 6 months. That's all actually. And that are the lessons I have gained in that duration.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much too for listening to my presentation. So, do you have any question?
Yeah, that was really exciting. I enjoyed that. I built a few trees in gazebo. When I did, it seemed to be too big to load up a large area inside a gazebo. So
So where did you build your trees? On which actual software?
In Blender.
Blender, yeah. And what is the result?
I used I think I used a Zacro file to automatically generate the rows, but when I loaded all of the trees and the earth, my computer it was so slow I couldn't run real-time simulations.
Yeah, I know that because continue. Sorry for interrupting.
I was just wondering if that's my own ignorance or if the way around that.
Actually, I'm using Gazebo since a long time, and having real-time performance in Gazebo is very difficult. So you can, for example, dissipate your resources, maybe using more than one computer. It's a way to solve that, but even in that case, it might not be so easy to have that, because actually it is related to your graphical processing unit, and having much better models require a lot more processing power, graphical processing power, and therefore actually there's a trade-off. You have to have actually not much, but more basic 3 models so that you can have real-time simulation or application. That is the main.
Okay. Now, so maybe it's not that important to have real-time simulation. If you're running 70% or 50%, it just takes longer, but you're getting the same.
Yeah, actually, mine is as well as you explained too. My simulation runs as you said too, in 70 or 80%.
Another question: you're making a 3D map in Cartographer. Do you also have like a 2D map just out of the regular mapping, ROS mapping?
I didn't do in this project, but actually I'm not using Cartographer. I'm using Octomap.
Oh, Octomap.
Cartographer, I know Cartographer. It's from Google and it's 2D. It's actually very beautiful. But for example, if you are using a ground vehicle, for example, you are using Turtleboat, then there's the 2D map, mostly built through some laser sensor. So I have used such 2D mapping and navigation, but not in this project.
I guess
I don't think
you could use Octomap even though your robot is only 2D, and
yeah.
you're just matching that against a 3D map, which would be okay.
Yeah, there are actual studies on web, actually on the academia, as you said. There are ground vehicles, but also they are building 3D maps to actually navigate in the environment more safely. So yeah, it's an alternative, and I think in the future there will be no 2D maps. Actually, 2D maps are too constrained, so we should perceive the environment as is. So yeah.
Okay. And then you were building the Octomap from a stereo camera out of Gazebo?
Yeah, actually, I couldn't show it in my presentation, but in the base of the drone, there is Kinect camera. Kinect camera is not so realistic, but there are some actually equivalents of it. For example, Zenmuse or Asus camera. But both also Asus Xtune and Kinect is not anymore being produced, so you have to choose a stereo camera that is being produced and supported currently. But there are many instances in the web and other places that attaches stereo cameras to bases or to the top of the drone. So it's a possible thing to do. In simulation, I'm making that, but it has a rational. You can do it in the reality too.
Okay.
So
on your plugin for RViz, where you had the grid, you had
it's
grid. Is that
very
to
simple.
show? That's to show what areas have been covered.
Exactly. The blue colored cells are meant to be as traversed. So in the future of the application, in the next steps of the application, they will be not traversed back again. So that is how I deal with frontiers, because if you don't have such a greedy or other way of dividing your environment, then it is very possible to move to the same coordinates back again. Because I'm using Octomap, and if you search, Octomap has its own library, so you can use it without ROS, without any actual robotics context, but it does not have a actually fair frontier policy. If you try to sample the frontiers from the unknown map, it will basically sample the frontiers most from it is closest to it.
Yep.
That is why I have built such a thing.
I like that, and maybe, I don't know if this is true or not, but maybe it could also work with multiple robots, so they could see what areas have been covered and then stay out of that area and go explore.
Yeah, actually, my professor was a expert on swarm robotics, so my current project is on swarm robotics, where I currently actually work in. So yeah, there is the possibility to launch these to multiple robots so that they can work in harmony and do the things much efficiently. But as you said, in simulation, if you increase the number of robots, it will be very bad. It will, for example, only 10% of the real-time FPS. It becomes like that. I have tried to do that, and that in that case you have to split your nodes to, for example, to some Raspberry Pis, for example, what we are doing now, and then you have a master computer that your gazebo simulation runs, and with some network policy, you can have your whole system run. That's the thing, but in my case, I'm just a student now. If I get funding from some place, I would love to try such a thing, but for now, it's only a fantasy for me.
Yeah. Have you seen any work done around loading tiles of Octomap So instead of trying to load the whole thing, if you had a large field, let's say a meter by meter, a mile by mile or hectare by hectare block of trees.
Actually, there can be such applications in the web, studies in the web, but I didn't choose to build such a thing because if you have a in my case, my orchard is very actually finite, has very finite volume. It is not so big. It is 26 by 26 by 4 meters of volume, actually not so big. But if you have much wider area, then you need to deal with the memory too, because Octomap increases exponentially. So it is very difficult to store all the data. So in that case, actually, there are some studies on the web that tries to, for example, send some of the portion of the volume to hard disk and only hold the current operation region in the memory. There are kinds of things in the web, but yeah, I didn't do that because I didn't need that. Yeah.
Looks like we have Mustafa online.
Yeah, Mustafa is trying to go online. Okay.
But his English is perfect.
I am in project with Mahmoud Shusha.
That broke up there a little bit.
I think his connection is not very good, so we cannot hear him, right? I couldn't understand what he said, what he did say. So thank you for giving...
And we are working on the same project.
Okay. Actually, it is very beautiful to...
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
I am in project with Mahmoud Shusha.
Tahsin, you mentioned you're looking for collaborators on the project. Is there any specific skill set or a specific area you would like help with?
Actually, I didn't specify such sets, but of course, for example, a person who dealt with machine learning models in using ROS and Gazebo would be very beneficial in my case because I have used OpenCV some image processing, but I didn't integrate a machine learning model directly into ROS that, for example, learns through Gazebo. But for example, such a person would be very beneficial to me. But even a person who didn't do such a thing any time thus far, but willing to do, would be also very good. Actually, I don't have any criteria. Anybody who wants to contribute can contribute. Welcome to contribute.
And the machine learning task that you're working on is being able to identify fruit off of a camera in a tree?
Actually, in the first case, it is better to identify trees at first. So trees are much lower in terms of numbers with respect to fruits. So when you know there are trees on certain positions in the world, then you can, for example, in your next flight, you can search for trees much efficiently in that case. Of course, it's a choice. You actually can decide that there should be there shouldn't be any tree detection, but you can directly detect and diagnose all fruits, for example. Actually, it's a choice. So there is chat.
I have a question about if there is any specific data set you are using.
Sorry, Tahsin, Mahmoud, are you saying to me?
Yes.
Sorry, can you repeat your question? The voice is a little bit...
The data set you are using is a real data set?
Is any the data set I'm using? Actually, I'm currently in the phase of research, making my research, so I didn't choose any data sets. But I know that there are a lot of data sets in terms of agricultural detection. There are many fruit detection models actually on the web, and there are very good actually models in the web. For example, there was a video that they just moved some camera, and in a sudden all the fruits are detected as, for example, Golden Globes. Yeah, I will try to find that model actually.
that would be fun if you post that up in the Slack channel. That would be good.
Yeah, okay. I will try to post it as I find it because I also take courses on machine learning, but I didn't make any integration between robotics and machine learning. Therefore, it will be also interesting to me. And anybody have knowledge more knowledge than me would also I am broadly open to all contributions in that case. So maybe I can chat to group if I find.
Yes.
Okay. For example, if we search for fruit detection, actually, using image segmentation is a thing. If you know, for example, there is, but it is not so well. Okay. I found the actually video. It has only 434 views, so it is a hidden treasure in our case. You can watch the video. It's a study from, I think, yeah. Yeah, it detects, as you see, all the fruits as not golden, but red globes. And maybe I can find some. Actually, there is deep fruits. Yeah, I have found out that. But yeah, this is better. For such being as a reference, it's a good to cite in here. Yeah, it might be used. So in your own projects as the agriculture group, do you need such fruit or tree detection models or routines? For example, for tractor, it's not mostly needed, but for other applications, it will be needed, I think.
We are working on sugar beet.
So I think that there's some commonality between these different areas. They may not be specific, but that machine learning pipeline to be able to identify plants, identify weeds, identify fruits, that's going to be used everywhere.
Yeah, actually, that is why I'm trying to move on my phase 2, but nowadays it is a little bit stalled because I have many other tasks to do in my own life. So, but when I go to phase 2, I will definitely have you know that I have done such a thing and acknowledge you about the enhancements that I have made. For example, I can provide you some simple model that detects fruits, for example. But also, if you are interested on weeds, of course, we can search for weed detection models too.
Yes.
So do you have any questions, any more questions related to my project or another thing?
Do you have any agriculture robotics startups or a new business in Turkey?
No, I don't have.
Not at all?
In Turkey,
Yes.
actually robotics is a little bit still a niche in Turkey. There are only 2 or 3 companies, and all those are startups, and they are basically building depot robots. They are only using ROS navigation stack and with some mobile base moving on some, for example, fabric house, on some a workshop, a workhouse. It only moves things and stuffs that workers need. On other hand, there is no agricultural company in Turkey focusing on robotics, because in Turkey people are not so expensive as in Europe, so you don't need robots in our case. It's a little bit it's a little bit related to your needs actually.
Okay.
That's great work, Tahsin. I appreciate it. It's really interesting. I think some combination between maybe a quadcopter going out and mapping an area, a ground robot coming through and spraying or doing something. We see a lot of those applications in the future.
Yeah, actually, I think Microsoft has invested on such a similar whole system as well recently. Even more, Bill Gates made its advertisement, as I remember. So there was many drones, a swarm of drones flying on some, for example, plants or farm, and they acknowledged the autonomous tractors on harvesters to go onto some specific region, and they were, for example, coming from the back. They were some manipulators with bases and picking fruits. Yeah, they are trying to build a whole autonomous system for an agricultural field. Yeah, there's actually a growing field. So yeah, I think that there will be some combinations and commonalities in future too.
It's too close.
Yeah, it is too close. It's happening.
Yes.
Actually, if you know, there are many good guys from Spain. There are a lot of companies from Spain that focuses on agricultural robotics. There are a lot of actually autonomous tractors, harvesters, pickers that they have mastered on. You may want to know them as well.
If you can post a link.
Okay, let me find. Actually, I'm watching a lot of videos in a day, but let me try to find them. It was in GTX robotics. Yeah. Agrobot. Do you know Agrobot?
What?
Sorry. Do you know Agrobot? Agrobot. Okay,
No.
let me give you. It's actually a really big harvester. So here is the link, the YouTube link. This is a Spanish company located in, I think, let me go to their webpage.
They are working only in harvesting applications.
Sorry?
They are working only in harvesting applications.
Sorry? Can you repeat?
Only in harvesting?
Yes, it's only harvesting, but it also have some navigation in the field so that it will not crash the strawberry plants. And also there is a lot of cameras located, positioned in underside, in the beneath of the harvester so that it will detect all the fruits. And there are a lot of manipulators attached to its base, and it will pick all of them with very, very good actually pace. It is faster than humans, as I see. For example, this is a very good application of agriculture robotics. And it was actually promoted on GTX, the NVIDIA's graphical, I think, NVIDIA's graphical training experience facility, I think.
Awesome.
Maybe, for example, this can be a good way to develop some agricultural project too.
That deep fruit machine learning paper that you posted, that looks really interesting. I don't know if there's a ROS port for that, but it looks great.
Actually, I have just find out that, and I will read it in my free time. Actually, it is very, how can I say that? They are claiming a very big name actually with that name.
So we've got a couple more minutes left. Are there any other questions?
From my side, actually, there isn't anymore. So I have asked questions. You have asked me questions. Yeah, it was a good meeting. Thank you for calling me as a presenter, giving me the chance to present my presentation about my project. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it was great, Tahsin. Thank you for being here. Excellent presentation, great work.
Well, I might need some more information regarding to some electronical. For example, you have built some lawn tractor. You didn't build, but you have added some controller on top of it, as I know, right?
Yeah.
So actually, I will read through back, as I said, the Slack group and other places in ROS Agriculture, but I might need more information. So I will ask you through PM or through general, from the channel general. So I'm currently actually focusing on some controller stuff, and it requires some knowledge on electrical systems that I really lack. I don't know anything about electrical systems. So it would be very beautiful to at least know something about your lawn tractor.
Yeah. yeah, feel free to post questions about hardware. And we on the lawn tractor we're using a Raspberry Pi and a Teensy, but we can show you what's going on there and how those work.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet. Well, thanks for being here tonight, and we will see you guys next week or in the Slack channel.
Okay.
Okay.
Have a great week.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.